Hello, everyone. I'm Jazz Young, CEO at Netreo. Joining me for a fireside chat today is Rhonda St. John Hamborsky, Director of IT Service Management for AT&T Consulting. AT&T has been a long-time partner of Netreo's, and we're delighted to have Rhonda here with us. Rhonda, where is here for you today?
Hi, Jazz. Thanks for having me. I'm coming to you from my home office in the great state of Michigan.
Well, is this what you always do, or because of the post-COVID-19 new normal?
You know, Jazz, I've been a virtual worker for close to 20 years. It's, I think, fairly unusual. But I've always been a heavy traveler. So I spent years, on airplanes. Of course, with COVID, my wings got clipped and I'm not in front of clients face to face the way that I used to be. However, we've got, great collaborative software applications and we're relying on those these days.
That's amazing. 20 years of remote work, Rhonda. That's amazing. You're way ahead of our time then. Could you describe to us what you do at AT&T, please?
Oh, I'd be happy to. I'm a director of professional services for AT&T Consulting. We're part of the larger AT&T business organization, not consumer and not entertainment. And I've been with the company coming up on 18 years, preceded by another 15 in the industry.
Wow, so where were you before AT&T?
Well, I was really fortunate, kind of a luck and timing happenstance, to have been in California in Silicon Valley when I was starting out in my career. So that's where I began, and I found my way into the early data networking industry. Back in the day, we were wiring things together with coaxial cable, token ring, and ultimately Ethernet. So I have been in the industry for quite a while.
Wow, Rhonda, we're fortunate to have you here with us today and with your expertise around ITSM. So let's talk a little bit about IT service management. What is it?
We tend to think of IT service management fairly broadly. If you look it up online, you'll get a definition that basically says it's the management of IT services to meet customers' requirements. But you really have to unpack that. True ITSM takes into account a strategy for the services delivery. It encompasses the scope of services. And then you have to underpin all of that with the people, processes, and tools platforms to be able to deliver on those services.
Got it. So it's really three pillars: people, processes, and tools, then, right?
Well, it's all of those, but I would flank it with two additional pillars, and those would be strategy, which would be our starting point, and that's taking a look at where the company is headed, what their goals as an organization are, their growth focus, things like that, and then how is IT tasked to support those. So that's one, and then the other would be the organizational climate, the culture, and that's we're finding changing with cloud transformation.
Wow, how so?
Well, we're seeing a big shift in organizations who had traditionally been DIY, do it yourself kinds of IT shops to a greater openness and willingness to shift the work. So we're helping our clients assess this as part of the strategy work that we do for their operations environment. Things like nearshoring, which may not have been something that they'd considered doing previously. These newer generation tools and SaaS offers give the clients the opportunity to rethink their strategy as well in terms of staffing, what they keep in-house, what they're willing to co-manage, and what they might consider out-tasking.
That makes a lot of sense. So why and when would a client give you a call?
Well, in IT, there's hardly ever any time to be proactive. It's usually a highly reactive firefighting kind of environment, and unfortunately, we get called in after the fact a lot of the time when there's been some sort of major event. Major enterprise transportation client, I'll share you a little story about them. They had a Priority One or a Sev One event that resulted in an 18-hour outage, and they had to go to a ground stoppage, which meant they were losing millions and millions of dollars of business. So they did a really good job understanding the root cause and getting to the root cause, and then making some remediations internally in their processes and in access control to make sure an event like that didn't happen again. But at that point, they decided they needed to step back and take a bigger, broader look look at how their NOC is operating. And they really want it to be more of a world-class command center. So they wanted to look for best in breed advice and a study on how they could get there. So we were able to give them a quick start study on their network model, their staffing models. We focus a lot on event monitoring and management and the tooling and how either limited or how pervasive it is in the environment. And then we make our recommendations out of that. We typically focus on stabilization first. If there is something that isn't working well, let's get that fixed. It's kind of the triage, stabilize the patient approach, right? And then go on and look at identifying the gaps on a roadmap to get to that desired end state. And we'll review those, and we'll make rough order of magnitude assessments on the cost and present that to them as well.
Well, Rhonda, that's very broad and very deep. Who do you typically work with?
Well, we find that the directors of networking, vice presidents of networking are typically where our services are getting positioned and sold. But in this particular use case, it's actually the CTO who wants our help in preparing an ask that he will end up ultimately taking to his board of directors, to get that additional investment that he needs.
That's fantastic. What are your key success factors? Could you describe how you and your team help them?
Well, I think what's happened for us is that we've pivoted a little bit with COVID, and what we feel is that COVID has impacted how clients want to consume consulting. Kind of in the pre-COVID world, we might have done a much more exhaustive kind of ground up assessment that may have had months tied to it as opposed to weeks tied to it. And those kinds of assessment also have a corresponding price tag that come to them. And so I think the sweet spot that we're hitting right now with clients is our ability to bring acceleration to the work they want to get done. So we've retooled many of our consulting delivery services, and we've got quick starts, smart starts, and fast starts, depending on the practice that we're talking about, in order to get off the ground more quickly with a client and get them to meaningful information more quickly as well.
Got it. So, how do you know that what you're doing would work for the client?
We're bringing a lot of hands-on experience. So we're not a new young professional team. We're an actual older, greatly experienced team. We do have different levels of our consultants, but at the level where I am and the principal architect level, I would venture to say all of us have 20 plus years hands-on experience. And so that enables us to draw deep on that experience and bring that use case and expected performance data to the client. We also leverage what we're doing inside AT&T at our GNOC, our Global Network Operations Scale. That runs at large scale globally, right? And keeps our networks up and running. So I regularly meet with that team to understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, if they've made any big changes, or how they're seeing market pressures or dynamics impact on how they're delivering services out of the GNOC. So I think we try to bring practical advice and experience to the clients, and we look also across the experience book that we've been building with our large enterprise clients. We have both public and private sector clients, and so that allows us to have built a compendium of seeing things that work, things that don't work, and knowing where to go hunt for or search for the broken linkages in processes and the soft spots perhaps in the overall delivery of service. One of the other things I'm responsible for as I run the practice is to keep an eye on the market and new entries to the market, and make sure that I'm setting up calls with our practitioners with these providers to make sure that we're staying abreast of changing offers, new software, new SaaS offerings that are coming out there. In fact, it's how our Netreo relationship started many years ago.
That's true. Well, thank you for that, Rhonda, because that has certainly been a great experience for us. And speaking of our relationship, Rhonda, what's your experience been like working with Netreo?
Well, I'll start by saying that it's just been great. The people are awesome to work with. Some of the nicest partner people that I have to work with, and we really enjoy that. Also, very talented, lots of depth of experience and expertise there, and it's something that we do together. We don't throw a set of requirements over the wall and have Netreo bid on it. We actually get on the phone. We talk about the client environment together. We talk about how to take an approach that's a winning approach that meets the requirements of the client, and we customize the offer together before we respond to the client with a solution opportunity. Also, the Netreo team's been very accessible for us. So there's often the need to get a deeper dive technology demonstration and take kind of the deep, hard questions with the client. And I've had great support from Netreo architects and Netreo staff to get there as well. So it's just been great, and we really value the relationship.
Excellent. That's great, Rhonda. We feel the same way about AT&T and our partnership with you. We love the positive customer experience and business impact we've been making together in the marketplace, together, at our customers. Now, speaking of service delivery, Rhonda, as a director of IT service management for AT&T Consulting, building strong teams is so important to what you've been doing. And you've also nurtured a lot of talent in IT. What advice would you give to someone wanting to enter IT?
That's a great question, and it's very timely, because we do have a technology development program here at AT&T where we recruit from top engineering schools, and we have partnerships in place with the schools to give us that recruiting pipeline. And so we recruit and bring these folks on as TDP specialists, and they go through a rotation for a couple of years. So they'll get to work in different parts of our business and rotate around. And I've had several of them that have done rotations with us here in consulting. The thing that I really try to get to help them is to understand what it is that they enjoy doing, what they enjoyed the most perhaps about their internships while they were getting through school, and also about any school projects, to tell me about those projects, what they did, why they were proud of them, and what they liked the best about being able to work on projects like that. And these are, typically hard engineering degrees that are coming to us, but not everyone wants to do hard engineering work. I had a gentleman, a young professional that I was working with a couple of years ago. And when I was getting to know him, I asked him, what do you like to do? What do you think you want to do? If you had a blank white sheet of paper, what would you want to do in 3 or 4 or 5 years? Where would you see yourself? And he said, well, I don't really see myself in a back room doing, coding or anything like that. Even though he said, I'm trained to do it, I'm capable of doing it. I really want to work with clients. I want to be a direct interface with clients. And, I coached him a little bit, and I said, the fact that you're technical gives you a great opportunity. We have technical sellers and we have our regular sellers. And then I asked him, I said, how important is making money to you? He says, well, I'd like to make a lot of money, and I'd like to make it fast and early in my career. I said, well, then it's pretty clear you need to be a seller for us. So we need to get you on that trajectory and on that path. And today he is. He's selling for us. He has a full territory, and he's doing a great job. And, I'm just thrilled as somebody who had a hand in helping guide and direct him that he's landed in a place he's happy in right now at this juncture of his career. But, it isn't always perfect, and it isn't always smooth sailing. I've had another young man who was also deeply technical, very much was a coder and wanted to continue to be a coder. And he was doing a rotation with us, and I put him on an engagement shadowing a team that was doing a big voice transformation. So basically continuing to get the old legacy technologies out of their environment and making sure all of their voice was all IP. And I thought, this is a great opportunity. He'll learn, the basics, the fundamentals of telecommunications. And turns out he wasn't very interested in the fundamentals of telecommunications, and it may not be the most exciting technology stuff to learn. So after a few weeks in, he asked to chat with me. And so we got together, and he told me he was really bored and didn't want to do the work and was, really looking to move on. And so I talked him through it. I asked him to give us 2 more weeks, and I talked to the team, to try to encourage allowing him to have a little bit more hands-on role, or perhaps facing off to the client a little bit more. So we went through that 2 weeks and he was still unhappy with it. So I talked to his recruiting sponsor at that point and said, we've got to find him a different rotation. He's just not going to be a good fit for us, or more importantly, we're not a good fit for him. And we need to find him a place where we can encourage his ability to be in that sort of back of the house role, coding and standing up or supporting the services that we're bringing to market. And so we worked together and we made a move for him, and he's much happier with it. But I think the biggest thing that I focus on is really listening. It's bringing that same consulting skill set to this coaching and mentoring kind of role, and understanding what they want to do, and coaching them around that. I had a meeting with a young woman a couple of weeks ago where she wanted to dig in on a specific tool platform. And I said, that's great. And I don't want to discourage you from doing that, but I'm not going to be able to practice around that. So as a consultant in our organization, I need you to be billable, and I can't bill you with that deep skill set. I think it's great that you're interested. I want to encourage you to stay technical, but I also want you to look more broadly at IT service management and potentially at project management and the NOC environment. Look at, consider becoming a technical PM with us and doing that kind of work. So she sort of stepped back and rethought it a little bit, and we've placed her on one of our large stable accounts where she can work underneath, the auspices of some more senior practitioners. And there's plenty of hands-on technical work she can do in that environment. It just may not be yet with that platform, although the client has the platform. So you never know. We may be able to shape up a really nice opportunity for her in that engagement. But I had to be fair with her and honest with her about how we run our business and what rings the cash register for us as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of it's about people management versus just the technology alone. What sort of advice would you give as a senior leader in IT to other senior leaders in IT? What should they be open to doing when working with a new generation of talent?
Yeah, it's, I think, an important question, especially for those of us, myself, who are, rounding the corner on the ends of our careers. I think being curious is critically important. And I have to give my children a little bit of credit. I have a 31-year-old and a 28-year-old. And I always, as their mom, did my best to understand what it was that they were so keenly interested in. So I was interested in what they were interested in and why. And so we spent a lot of time, and they'd show me a lot of things they were doing on social media. I'm sure I didn't see them all, but they would talk to me about why, and why their friends liked it, why they liked it, how they communicate. And I get, I think, mentoring and coaching from them pretty regularly. My daughter will say to me occasionally, Mom, that's not how we do it. And I'll say, well, show me how you do it. Then I want to understand how you do it. And it's pretty funny. And I text with them all the time. And my husband's always like, just call them. And I'm like, honey, that's not how they do it. And so I think, being open to change, being open to learning new things. I ping my son occasionally for how to do something new on Google, and get a little help from him. But I think we have to stay ready to learn, and that it's a continuous learning process. And as I know, workplaces consider intergenerational teams or multi-generational teams, we can't be relics. We can't be dinosaurs. We've got to be able to jump in there and fight that good fight on Zoom, and, be right there with them on the tools and the technologies that they prefer to use. So that would be my advice, is to stay open, stay curious, and remember that you need to keep learning.
That's fantastic, Rhonda. I love how it's not just about mentoring new talent, but also appreciating the reverse mentoring that this new generation kind of gives to us
Can
as
give
well.
us.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So, thanks again for joining us today to share your insights on both ITSM and talent management.
My pleasure, Jasmin. Thank you so much for the time. And I appreciate both the technical superiority of the Netreo platform and the great people behind it. Thank you.
Thank you.